Do you like fantasy football and sports betting? Come join us here at the Parlay Fantasy Football Podcast, where hosts Matt, Shane, and Jason talk about fantasy players, lineups, and sports betting to help you compete and win championships. And of course, some extra cash. Let's jump right into the show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Parlay Fantasy Football Podcast. Matt, Shane, and Jason with you guys tonight on this finally lovely evening in the state of Kansas. We finally get a break from some of the nasty weather, so we're back at it. We are back at it. How you guys doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic, sir. Yeah, it's been a shit show out here. Not gonna lie. So it's nice to have some clear blue skies. And is this how Texas feels on it, like a usual basis? Because this is just weird. Like it was like 78 and sunny today, and I did sweat a little bit, and I was like, man, that's this is what the good life feels like.
Is it like how Texas feels? Yeah, kind of, sort of. It's been 80s, low 90s every now and then. So yeah, we're getting somewhere, just not the bad weather. We kind of could use some rain here, but hey, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back for another episode with y'all with these beautiful faces. So
Well, tonight we are going to be going over what we're going to call hot or not players. Okay, players that we like, some players that we don't like, some players that we might expect to do better than their projections for the year. So we're going to go over that, guys. If you guys want to catch up on any of the other stuff that we talked about in previous episodes, head on over to all the podcasting platforms and check us out. Okay, the Parlay Fantasy Football Podcast. Give us a like, a review, or a 5-star review, a follow. It really does help the show out. If you guys want to catch us live on YouTube, we are streaming right now at the Parlay FF Podcast. Currently is what it is called. Head on over there, guys. You can check out our streams over there. We're still playing around with it. We're gonna get bigger and better. Okay. We are currently setting up our Patreon page. We hope to have that launched and live for you guys in the next month or so. Okay. There's a lot of things that actually kind of involve that. So we're going to get it going for you guys and give you guys some 3 premium options, basically. So that way you guys can follow all of our bets. All right. Go and check it out when it is live. We'll make sure that we let you all know. If you want to follow us on the old X machine, you can find Shane at Shane Parlay FF, Jason at Jason Parlay FF, and myself at Matt_Parlay FF. Before we jump into the segment, is there any news? Is there any news in the league right now that's kind of going on? Anything that's flipping Jason's
Aside
on
from
hold
Jason
and reconnecting?
Yeah, aside from Jason disconnecting constantly.
No, for real. Is there anything? Has there anything popped off? Has anything popped off lately?
OBJ signed with the Miami Dolphins last week, and Tyler Boyd signed with the Tennessee Titans. Those are the two.
Okay.
I don't know if you call them big moves. Those are the 2 moves that have happened.
So yeah, nothing really crazy. Jason, you got anything to add on that?
nope.
So nothing really crazy.
The death of Treylon Burks is what happened.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that in a little bit. I do have some things I want to bounce off your guys' brains a little bit about that in the next segment. So, so nothing real big, right? So there will be some more moves. There'll be some more transitions probably after June 1st. After June 1st and everything starts firing off, there's going to be some more moves. There's going to be teams that are looking for some value in certain players because there are still some free agents out there that are okay, right? And there's a lot of teams that are looking to fill some defensive gaps and stuff like that. So we'll keep you posted on that. But yeah, I don't know. You guys ready to jump into the segment?
Let's get it.
Hot or not?
All right, guys. It's hot or not. All right. So we're going to talk about some players that you guys want to do. No, what Shane? Why don't you start us off? Why don't you start off with your first player?
All right. Well, let's see here. This comes down to a lack of moves that this team made. And my first hot player is Jake Ferguson. Listen, Dallas added no one. Absolutely zero bodies. So you are running it back with CD, Jalen Tolbert, Brandon Cooks, and Jake Ferguson, and then whoever the hell they can finesse as a running back. By the way, I think it's going to be Khalil Herbert. That's my hot take. Is I think that Herbert is on the roster bubble in Chicago, and I think he ends up as the running back there. Anyways, Jake Ferguson on the rise. The target's vacated by Michael Gallup. He's going to be the recipient, and we know that Dallas likes to utilize the tight ends. Ferguson should be on everybody's watch list / buy list. I was fading the shit out of him prior to the draft because I just assumed they were going to add a pass catcher and maybe a running back. I thought they would be aggressive, and they addressed other positions, and it is what it is. It's a Jerry Jones run team. So, yeah, Jake Ferguson should be probably like tight end. I think in best ball he's tight end 9 right now, but it wouldn't shock me if he was like tight end 8, tight end 7 in redraft this year.
Yeah, what's funny about all that is Jerry Jones at the beginning of the offseason said they were going to go all in this offseason, and I think they folded literally every hand that they got and didn't do a damn thing besides re-sign Zeke.
Yeah, the only free agent they re-signed was Zeke. Or a free agent that wasn't from their team was Zeke. I thought that was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy because Jake Ferguson is he gave you some value last year. I mean, you could see the rapport that Dak had with Jake Ferguson, and I mean, he looked pretty good. Did he have some drops? Yeah, he did, but he gave you value, and he was one of those tight ends that people swooped up off the waiver wire, and he just continued to produce. It wasn't a ton, but it was getting you numbers. It was getting you numbers for the tight end position. So
8 a week
was cool
is big at tight end. If you don't have the top 4 or 5, 8 a week, you're like, I can deal with that. That's fine.
Yeah, I like that. I like that take. That's a good player to be in the old hot category. I'm gonna jump in here, guys. My first one is Keon Coleman. It's Keon Coleman for the Buffalo Bills. Listen, we've got all that. We know he's good in interviews, right? His interviews are fire so far. My big thing is like, what is he really going to be, right? We all know, if you watched college football, you watched him at Florida State, the guy made plays that just make your jaw, it would drop your jaw to the floor, right? He's an athletic specimen. He's not the fastest guy in the world. We all know that, I guess he did have some drop problems, but the guy made some moves and some plays that just made your mouth drop, right? I don't know where I'm going to put him in the hot and cold or hot or not, but I am slightly leaning towards the hot. With Stephon Diggs out of town, Gabe Davis out of town. They brought in Curtis Samuel. We know Dalton Kincaid's going to do his thing. James Cook probably going to catch some more balls out the backfield. Where do you guys see that? Do you lean more towards the hot side, or where are you guys at with that?
I mean, I know what Jason's going to say.
Yeah, I do too.
I will say I have been warming. I was pretty cold going into the draft.
Right.
But the more I have assessed his landing spot and what I think possibly his role will be there, I don't hate it. I do think that he is more of a big slot type. I think that him and Treylon Burks are basically the same cookie.
Okay.
So, like, they both are incredibly talented individuals who just don't have the ability to separate. And so I struggle to see if he's going to make an immediate impact, but he is something that I am definitely willing to take a shot on in Dynasty. And like that's where I'm at. Like, I love the landing spot. He gets Josh Allen, who's going to chuck the ball, and he doesn't really care if he turns it over, which is fantastic. If you're the guy holding the other, if you're the guy holding the other piece, you're like, yes, just throw it down there. Like, let him make a play. And he did make athletic crazy athletic catches. He's a basketball player playing football, and I see it. I see the path of enlightenment. I just don't know if he can get there. I don't know if he can see the light yet, and so that's where I'm like hesitant. Like, he is an absolute boomer bust in my book.
Okay.
Also, some of his drops were complete BS. I will say that. Like, a lot of it was Jordan Travis. Like, well, Jordan Travis, and then the myriad of quarterbacks they played after Jordan Travis got hurt. But like, it was like, fuck it, Keon's down there, and let me just chuck this.
It up.
And the chart guy was like, he could have caught that. Like, that's a drop. And you're like, what? He could have caught it if he had an extra 3 feet of length in his arms. Like, come on now.
Yeah, you already know my love affair for Keon Coleman. So Shane said it best. He has a very high ceiling. It's just a matter of question marks with separating in that offense. But the upside is there. Redraft leagues, maybe not so much just to start off. I mean, I would take a shot at him late in a draft, depending on if it's a 10 or 12 man league. But Dynasty, for sure, just because of what his ceiling could potentially be in that offense. And I don't see, and I think it's Khalil Shakur and what is it, Curtis Samuel. Then it's Kincaid. So it depends kind of what they're going to do with that offensive role for him, but I do see him kind of catching his stride in the second half of the season.
Okay, so if you guys, before you name your player, Jay, is 90 targets, in between 80, 90 targets, is that a win for Keon Coleman? His rookie year, because
that's a low end win. That's a low end win, I think.
Well, you know what I'm saying. We know traditionally rookie wide receivers, if they're drafted in the first round, it's that draft capital. You have that expectation. Now we know that there's been some first round receivers that have been absolute bust. Quentin Johnson, or Traylon Burks. If he gets 90 targets, is that kind of a dub? Is that a W in your book as far as Dynasty goes? I mean, are you excited about that?
Yes. If he, if he gets 90 targets and he converts 60 of them, no. But if he becomes a true possession player for the Bills, like if he gets targets and is turning them into actual receptions, then yeah, I'm buying next year's hype on board. But
yeah.
And it wouldn't shock me to see him hit 90 targets. The question is he going to be able to do anything with them? Which, we've seen how explosive he is once he gets the ball in his hand. That's the thing. Like, he is, and they were, a lot of the shit that they were doing at Florida State was just trying to get the ball to him, which is
right.
Such an interesting, So I'm sold, but like buying with with hoping that I don't have buyer's remorse later.
Right.
Like
right.
back in round 1 of Dynasty I'm okay with.
Yeah, because I'm at that point now. If he gets, in between that 80 and 90 target mark, anywhere in between, 650, 700 yards and like 4 tutties, I'm excited, but I'm also kind of like, God dang, first round draft capital. Figured he'd be a little bit better, but I think he's going to be somewhere right there.
Well, he got
somewhere
second,
right in that mark.
He did get second round draft capital. Just saying.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, he was their guy. It was clear.
To be fair, I think that the top 35 picks should all be considered first round draft. I think that needs to stop being it needs to stop being like your first round guys. I think it needs to expand a little bit, because I think that we're seeing more of those like later picks to good teams like mattering significantly more than early picks to bad teams. So I
got you. Jason.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Zamir White.
Ooh.
I like what he did at the end of last season, and he is currently RB1 in the Raiders offense. Everybody thought that they were going to use kind of their second round draft pick on a running back, Trey Benson or something like that. They did not. And after Josh Jacobs' departure, the only other running back that they really have, they have 2 running backs, but they signed Alexander Madison on a cheap 1-year deal, and they drafted a 6th round running back, Dylan Lobby, but the only 6th-round running back to even kind of eclipse a role in the NFL has been Elijah Mitchell within their first year. So it's saying something to where he does have his stock has gone up right now. And at the end of last season, we saw Zamir White kind of shine in that offense.
Jason,
What are you about to say?
I love it for the aspect that I think Zamir White gets all of the early down work. Dylan Lobby led the FCS in receptions out of the backfield for 2 straight years.
But with that offense, and I think with what's his name, Mustache Minshew, I think that Mustache is going to go to work and they're going to control the offensive. I think their offensive line is a great run blocking offensive line, especially with their 2nd-round pick. They drafted a guard, I'm pretty sure. I have it right here. Powers Johnson. So, and with the second best run blocking grade coming out of the draft. So I like what Zamir White can do. They gave him the ball 20 plus touches in the last 5 games. So I like what I'm seeing and with him going forward this year.
Jason, I kind of like that take. I see where Shane's coming from with the whole Lobby thing. Because I think, to be honest with you, to be completely honest with you, and I think Shane said it last episode, I think Brock Bowers lines up as a receiver. I don't think he's a tight end. I don't think they're going to use him as a tight end. Not all the time. I think he is going to be a slot receiver. Michael Mayer out there too. You got Jacoby Myers, Devonta Adams. I think this offense is going to be Minshew. Yeah, I mean we've seen him get stuff done. I think this offense is going to be a little bit better than what people think.
I concur.
It should be.
I think you guys are on the right track, and I do like Zamir, Jason. I wasn't trying to like cool you off.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
I'm in. I'm also in on Dylan Lobby though. Like I feel like he didn't go to a big school, so people are kind of writing him off. But like the Duke can ball, and like running back is the only position that translates without any hesitancy. Like doesn't matter what school you went to, and so like I think that Lobby becomes a very good complement to Zamir. I don't think that he takes any work away from Zamir aside from like the passing downs maybe. But I don't even know that he'll immediately step into that. He's going to have to fight Amir Abdullah for that position. And I really do like Zamir, especially early and where he's getting drafted. Like looking at, he's like currently like RB27, which is crazy considering the fact that he's one of the least congested backfields in football, but he's falling in the RB dead zone. I think that that's going to get steamed up as we like approach actual NFL season. I think people are going to get on board with where Jason's at. And like he'll end up RB 17-ish, somewhere around that zone, kind of like where Joe Mixon, I think, is where like he'll end up by the time we get to like redraft season.
Wait, Shane, who you got?
Ooh, I have another hot. Look, I have a lot of fires just because I like. This is the time of the year I like to look on the bright side. I don't want to.
Yeah, I do too. I'm the same way.
So, it's not the guy I had listed next on my list. I'm going to tuck that in the back pocket. I'm going with the guy that's third on my list, and that's Michael Wilson. And I know that you had him too, Matt.
Love it.
Look, Marvin Harrison is one of the best prospects we've seen, and him being added to that offense only further differentiates the passing game from the running game. I know they added Trey Benson too, so like the running game is still going to be very relevant. But I think Wilson benefits because he is the for sure wide receiver 2 in that offense. They used him or tried to use him as wide receiver 1 and showed that he had good chemistry with Kyler at the end of the year and produced despite being a later round wide receiver, big-bodied wide receiver. You know my affinity for those guys. And the Duke can ball. And as long as he can stay healthy, I think that him being in that second wide receiver slot looks a whole hell of a lot like T. Higgins. Like, I think that's what I think that's his ceiling. Like, I honestly, that's where I believe, and I know that sounds like I'm cooking some crazy shit in my garage, but, like, I think that's his ceiling. I think that, like, a T. Higgins complement to, like, what I think that Marvin Harrison could be, which is, like, a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, I think that that's
Yeah,
what that
agreed.
is, and I think that Wilson is a fantastic compliment. He's going to be a high point catch guy. He's going to be a possession dude, and I know that's kind of what Marvin does too. But I mean, shit, the dude was an ultra producer. If they could get to the red zone last year, the issue was they couldn't get to the fucking red zone, and
Right.
I think that changes a lot with how this offense looks this year. I'm very excited for the Cardinals this year. I think you guys are as well. I think kind of the whole community is bought back in. So like,
Yeah, agreed.
and Wilson's super like dirt cheap. Like you could trade a 3rd round pick for Michael Wilson, and I feel like you get immediate return in value this year as someone you could flex potentially by the like 4th week of the season once you kind of figure out what's going on with Marv.
Yeah, I 100 billion% agree with you. So many people are sleeping on Michael Wilson, and the guy's a heck of an athlete. And when you got MHJ, Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, Rondale Moore kind of mix into that. Then you have the compliments of James Conner and Trey Benson, like
Rondale's in Atlanta now.
or
It's
I'm
Greg
sorry,
Dortch.
Greg Dortch.
Yeah.
Greg Dortch. That's who I meant to say.
The legend himself,
Um,
Greg Dortch.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that offense, I'm very excited to see what they can do for real. And I think so many people are sleeping on Michael Wilson. I think that's an excellent pick. I'm gonna give you guys my first cold. And this is the Treylon Burks. I want to bounce some stuff off your head here. Because obviously we know his career in Tennessee is done. Right. Their coaches have talked about Kyle Phillips stepping up, right? So he's gonna probably assume that slot role kind of player with Tyler Boyd. D-Hop is there. Like, you think about this 3 years ago, if it were 3 years rewound and that wide receiving core was on Tennessee right now, it would be great. It'd be a great wide receiving core. They're a little bit older now, but they're still good, right? Treylon Burks was a round 1 draft capital receiver. They traded A.J. Brown to basically draft Treylon Burks. Didn't work out. I've been hearing a lot of things around the league right now that he's going to be a trade candidate. Now, we obviously know that he hasn't had much. He's only had 1 touchdown, like 50 receptions in his career. Has he been hurt? Yes. Did he have some health problems? Yes. And he's turning the cap around. Yep, he's turning the cap around.
Send him our way.
But here's what I'm saying. Like, if he gets traded to a team that can utilize him, because the dude is skilled. Like, he is a skilled wide receiver. I think he just kind of, part of me feels like he just kind of got snubbed a little bit, but I know he didn't really produce. So I don't really know what's going on with him. If he gets traded to another team that does need a receiver or receiving help, do you feel like his physical attributes, and he's 6'2", like 225 pounds or something like that, you think those physical attributes could give some value for fantasy purposes? Like, I have him listed as a cold candidate or a not, hot or not, on the not side. And it's hard to think about, but is there a lane for him to resurrect his career?
I mean, I thought that they would utilize him possibly out of the slot this year. I was kind of excited for Treylon Burks. And now with this signing, in a quiet, you could get him for almost nothing type excitement, like that type of athlete at such a low cost, like if he could figure it out, especially in a role that I think suits him better, being the big slot. Yeah, sell me on it. Like I'm here for it. I think that if he ends up in a spot that needs a slot receiver and utilizes him that way, it doesn't try to force him to be a boundary guy. Like, he's not A.J. Brown. Like, that's been determined.
Yeah, 100%.
But if someone uses him similarly to Amon-Ra, I think that he excels. I don't know that he excels to the level of Amon-Ra or Puka, but, I could see flashes of that with his rack. And, or a yak. Yards after catch, run after catch, both of them.
Yeah.
It's there. It's just it depends on where he lands before you can say he's going to have any chance to resurrect his career. Because right now, and we do know that first round talent has just sticks in the NFL because that draft capital is just forever attached to him. So he's going to stick on a team. The question is he going to be relevant? And I would like to think yes, but it's hard for me to think of a place that could utilize his skill set in a way that he is going to produce for fantasy, at least this year, short term.
Yeah. I mean, I've refrained from dropping him off my roster for the fact that, all the rumors swirling around as he was going to be a potential trade candidate after that June 1st deadline or after that June 1st date. And to be honest, if you're an NFL organization, you can basically get him for nothing. Like, you can trade the Titans a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick, or give them, a player that they need, and then make them give you Burks and a pick. You know what I mean? Like, I think he could be a great grab for an organization that could use wide receiver help.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what that Titans offense does look like this year with kind of a new identity as a head coach and whatnot. But to piggyback off what you both said, first round talent gets so many chances in the NFL. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
It's
Sam
just,
Darnold's still on a team.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And I mean, well, shoot, Sam Darnold even has a chance to start this year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But he's only 26, which I still kind of blows my mind that you're like,
It's
oh,
crazy.
damn,
He's the
you're
same
been
age as
in the
Michael
NFL for
Penix.
this long, you're only 26. Yeah, but
Same
I
age
guess
as Michael Penix.
yeah, whenever it comes to Burks, it's like, all right, that's the biggest thing for me is if he does stay on the Titans, what is their identity going to be as an offensive team after what we've seen from them in the previous years with the Derrick Henry realm? So it's hard to kind of say like I'm going to go after him, but with his stock down bad right now, you could get a steal late in drafts to where, hey, it might not be a bad pickup just in case something does happen and he does pop off.
Yeah. Jason, who you got?
So I'm going to stick with my team, and it pains me to say this, and I'm going to ice it this year. Tank Dell.
Ooh. What?
I think
I can't believe it.
I think it's going to be a little bit more of an ice this year. I'm saying ice in a way to where his stock is going. He's not going to get the production that he did early last season or big time last season. I like where he's at. I think there's a little bit too many mouths to feed in Houston at the moment. I think the biggest, and I'm going to kind of segue into my fire segment with both these players. The biggest beneficiary of these signings and these new mouths in our offense is going to be Nico Collins. I feel like everybody's saying, "Oh, with Stephon Diggs, his stock is going up, and both the other guys are going down." Nico Collins, I think, is going to be the biggest beneficiary after what we saw with him and CJ's relationship and chemistry together. He is now going to be kind of freed up and not really uh double team with a or cover two safety over the top. I think the teams are going to have to run a different style of defense in order to cover this team. It's going to be interesting to see what they do actually run because you can't double team two guys in that offense because CJ will just pick you apart. Then if you want to drop 8 and have only 3 come, we'll just run the football with Mixon. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. I'm not saying Tank is going to have a bad season. I just think it's going to be a lesser of a season than he had last
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, Nico Collins, this is a make it or break it year, right? He's on his last year.
contract year. Yep.
Yeah. So does he want to be a free agent, or is he going to show out and do his thing so he can stay in Houston? This is a big year for him.
Yep.
Yeah,
Shane?
I think that Steph is going to eat more into Tank's receptions than he will Nico's. I'm in on the Nico train. I think that it's fallen too far off the tracks right now. People are like so out on him for a guy that hasn't done a whole lot over the last couple of years. I really do also think that Tank could still eat. So like I'm not necessarily cold on Tank. So yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm on the other side. I'm kind of neutral. I'm like lukewarm
It's a bold
on Tank
take.
though.
It's a bold take.
Yeah, like
Bold
I understand
take.
where you're coming from. Like I do.
Yeah.
I get it. In fact, I think that the buy window for Tank may be at the end of the year because like people are gonna be like not thinking about the fact that Steph is gone next year. But yeah, we'll see if CJ can keep 3 guys relevant. That's going to be very
Right.
interesting.
With Schultz also there at tight end.
Yeah, I think Schultz is the
Yeah.
one that gets kind of screwed out of this whole thing. I don't
Yeah,
think that he really has a place in this offense.
He got the bag, so it doesn't even matter for him.
Yeah.
Shane, who you got?
All right. I'm going to do a hot and a cold. And it's because one affects the other directly.
Ooh, okay, spicy.
My hot is Jonathan Brooks. And my cold, we talked about it last week, is Miles Sanders.
And Chuba?
And Chuba and Rashad Penny. Because they signed him.
To be honest, Shane, before you go off on this, I think Miles Sanders is not going to be on the roster.
Yeah, I think he's a cut candidate. I don't really understand. I think that there's a chance that he's a cut candidate now more than before, because it wouldn't have shocked me to have them have both, like all 3 of them in the roster, because he would have still incurred dead cap. So like,
right, yeah.
But them
Did
signing
they pay
Rashad
him or did
Penny,
they trade for him?
they paid Miles.
Miles Sanders.
Yeah, he left.
Yeah,
He was a free
paid.
agent from Philly, and he got paid. He got the bag. And what he's done is run that to the bank, deposit it, and set there. But yeah, I think Jonathan Brooks, everything is pointing to him being even ready at training camp, which is, I mean, a testament to modern medicine, because tearing shit used to be like out for a year and a half, and now it's like 9 months. I'm ready to put pads back on, baby. But yeah, Brooks was a fantastic guy. He was buried behind Bijan and Roshan, and when he got his chance, we saw limited things, but like, there's a reason he was a highly touted prospect and was traded up for in the second round. I think that is a very important key point here to point out the fact that Carolina also addressed the interior of their offensive line, which means that he is going to actually have running lanes this year. And I think that he could be the only 3 down back in this entire draft class. And so that's why I'm fading everybody else in their running back room. And I mean, maybe Chuba continues to have some sort of role, like whether it's to spell him or whatever. But I really do think that he is truly going to be the workhorse, and he's someone that probably should go like pick 112 in dynasty drafts.
Shane, I have to go off your dynasty drafts, and this is a testament to what you're just saying and how fast he's rising up people's boards. I witnessed a dynasty rookie draft where he got drafted at 106.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, especially with quarterbacks not being like, and I'm assuming it was a 1 QB league. So like
one QB
with like
league.
QB is not having as much value, and I could see him going before Caleb in 1 quarterback leagues, and that wouldn't shock me, especially because I honestly think there's a big gap between guys who are current producers, which is like the top 6 picks, and then everybody else. Like everybody else is like questionable. Like if they produce prospects, they have massively high ceilings, which is why there's so much hype about this class. But like they're not for sure things. And I think Jonathan Brooks is at least something you can take to the bank this year and be like, hey, look what I got. Look what I got. And that's what you sometimes need in Dynasty.
How early? How early is too early to draft them?
I think 106 is a little too rich. I would say 108 would be like, if I had 108 or later, I'd be itching to pull the trigger.
And if you were, well, let's just say you were a team that was a very running back needy team, do you feel safe drafting him at 10? Like you got the 105, and he's not gonna, these running backs ain't gonna fall. Are you comfortable taking him at 105? I mean, I've heard people talking about the top 3, obviously receivers, right? The top main 3, 1 QB leagues, and then I've even heard Xavier Worthy going at 104, and Jonathan Brooks going at 105.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it, especially if it's not tight end premium. It definitely adds to the juice to like getting those guys. But I still think that there needs to be some hesitancy, because We didn't see a lot of film of him.
Right.
Like, he is a fantastic prospect, but he has to be viewed as a prospect at this point. He's not a for sure thing. And so I feel like Bowers, I mean, maybe you could include Worthy, are both more for sure things. I'm not even as a Chiefs fan, I'm not sold that Worthy should be quoted around for sure thing. And so,
right.
Like, I feel like him going after Worthy makes sense due to just market relevancy of the wide receiver position over running backs in Dynasty. But like, I would probably say that like 107 would be like the earliest I would consider taking him. And then I'd still probably look at Caleb and be like, he's basically a running back. Or Jaden Daniels. I don't know. I do get the whole, if you're RB needy, like, it's hard not to pull the trigger, but also there are so many guys at the back, like the second round of this draft, even a guy I'll talk about here in a little bit, like, that you can get so much later that also offer like very, very good upside, like plug and play upside this year.
Right. All right, I'm going to jump into my next player here. It's Jalen Polk, another rookie. It's another rookie. Now, guys, hear me out now, okay? I know he's on New England Patriots. All right, I get it. They just drafted Drake May. For so many years, since Tom Brady basically left New England, they have been searching for that number one wide receiver on their roster. Who's going to do it? Is it Juju? They brought him in. He didn't do it. They drafted Tyquan Thornton. He didn't do it. They let Jacoby Myers go. Could have been a good prospect for New England now, but he didn't do it, right? The quarterbacks could not get them the ball. Jalen Polk has that unique opportunity, if he can just show his ass, basically, to be their number one target. He has that capability. The path is right there. It's clear for him. Am I sold on him? No. Am I interested? Very much so. I very much am interested in Jalen Polk this year. I think in the situation and scenario that he is in New England, he has that opportunity to at least pop off the map for that team. Not saying he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver in Dynasty or in the league, but he has the capability to at least be a relevant fantasy wide receiver as long as Drake May can throw the ball. We've seen Drake May throw the ball. The dude has a powerful arm. He is a better quarterback than Mac Jones. I don't really care what anybody else says. He is a better quarterback than Mac Jones. He can get Jalen Polk the ball. It's just if Jalen Polk can actually step up and be that guy. I see the path for him. I have him projected being their top target. So I'm interested in him. I'm not saying he's hot, but his name is hot right now in the fantasy world to be that guy. So what do you guys think? I'm hesitant because it's the Patriots organization that looks completely out of sorts, but I'm weighing my options with him. I think he could be a sneaky little smart player.
Yeah, I'll go real quick. I like the kind of hot, not so hot, but you're kind of going back and forth option
Yeah,
on that.
just kind of
So
weighing
it's
my
like
deal here.
he's not sizzling, but he's cooking up some heat. But I think the new identity of what the Patriots are going to be is kind of interesting to think about, to where going with Drake May and the power arm, and they might be able to push the ball down the field. I like the connection that could potentially be there with Polk. We've seen what he could do with a good quarterback. Yes, that's saying a lot in college, but at the same time, I feel like it can transition into the NFL, and he could potentially be a steal in your draft.
Let's hear Shane's ice cold take
As Lee Corso so famously coined, not so fast, my friend. Listen, I understand where you're coming from, Matt. I do. Jalen Polk, I don't think is that guy. I think he's a slot wide receiver. But New England already has a slot wide receiver. I will say there was some significant hype. Well, I mean, Pop Douglas, But like, I do think that there was a lot of hype building around him going into the draft, and in fact, at one point, Schrager had him going to the Chiefs at 32, which I thought was mind-boggling because I didn't see it. I will say, I think you are on the right track there. I just think you got the wrong name because the guy that I would be thinking is sizzling right now is Javon Baker because there's no one else to compete with him either. So like, I do agree it's going to be one of the two. I'm not going to plant my flag and say it's going to be which one, but like I do think that you're in the right lane. Like I do think that one of these two guys is going to pop, and I would definitely be pocketing one of them in my drafts if I can. So like I'm on board. I don't know that I would say he's cooking with grease, but like he's at least got the fire start. He's got kindling in my book. But did you just like fall there? Are you okay?
Bro, my chair just went down, bro.
But yeah, like I'm there. Okay. I'm not quite there with you guys, but like I do think that there is a fire starting. Someone's fanning the flames, and we'll see if it can truly light a blaze.
And I can get on board with you there as far as which one is it going to be. One of these guys has to pop off. One of these guys has to do something. That organization has to find some kind of identity. And like Jason said, it's going to be interesting to see what that identity is going to be this year. You got Ramondre, he's still there, right? And one of these two talented wide receivers with Pop Douglas, who is a talented wide receiver, just had Mac Jones throwing him the ball and Bailey Zappi last year. There's talent on the roster. I mean, there is clear talent on the roster. So I'm kind of interested in seeing how this organization is going to be ran. And like Shane said, you better pocket one of these guys because Jason and I alluded to, we think it's going to be Jalen Polk, but at the end of the day, one of these guys is going to be slept on and they're going to pop off. So keep that in mind.
Hey,
Jason, who you got?
Oh, I was gonna say,
you go ahead, Shane.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was gonna go with the same vein of Washington player.
Okay, yeah.
I would like to head Jalen Polk and McMillan.
McMillan? Yeah.
Because I think that
both
McMillan's landing spot makes him very intriguing. And the fact that Tampa was so willing to make that pick and so willing to immediately come out and say that Godwin was going to be playing the slot shows how much faith they have in McMillan to be able to step in and make an immediate impact as a boundary wide receiver. And McMillan's getting slept on right now. Like, you can get McMillan so cheap, and I know Mike Evans just re-signed for 2 years, but Evans is old. And, like, there has to be a future there, and I think there's a very solid pathway to McMillan being the guy that replaces Mike Evans.
Well, and the crazy part too, Shane, is there was a point in time at the University of Washington, out of Polk, McMillan, and Rome Odunze, people had McMillan as the best receiver on that roster.
Well, he was hurt. He was hurt all of last year, and he played through being hurt. And like, dude, if he gets right, he is going to be the one that everyone's like, holy shit, how did we miss this? Because like he was that dude.
Yeah, he could be a definite steal. All right, we got a couple minutes left here, boys. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I got one more ice for y'all, just a rookie. I think we all liked him before the draft, but his landing spots kind of turned us sideways on him, and it's Adonai Mitchell. I don't know if you like it, Shane. I know that face, but I'm going off of last year and what was going on with that team. They were one of the most run-heavy teams in the league, and I think AR and Jonathan Taylor, that with them both healthy, and Michael Pittman just re-signing that 3-year contract, and Josh Downs doing what we thought he was going to do in his rookie year and growing since then. I like what they are going to do in that offense, but I just don't think Mitchell is going to have the chance, just based on his landing spot, to put up the rookie numbers in Dynasty that we would expect him to. I think he'll get better moving forward, but that first year, I don't think there's going to be that much production that we see out of him.
Jason, Shane, before you go here, I'm going to say one thing. I agree with you, but I don't agree with you. Right? I think Adonai Mitchell replaces Alec Pierce. I'm sorry, Adonai Mitchell's a better receiver than Alec Pierce.
Yeah,
that's
without
just, that's just the way it is.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. I do agree as far as like production. We don't know, right, what he's going to get. I don't think it's going to be enough to make your jaw drop, but I think he has the potential to have a decent amount of production this year as long as the health thing, the health scare that everybody shied away from, his character. I know he was quiet, some people thought he had character issues, so on and so forth. But I think he steps in right away. And I think he steps in to take Alec Pierce's job. And it's just whether or not is AR-15 going to feed him? Is he going to feed downs, short game? Jonathan, there's a lot of mouths to feed there too. Jelani Woods, there's a lot of mouths to feed there. So I do agree with you as far as like production goes. I don't think he's going to be enough to actually create some. I think he'll have some fantasy relevance, but it won't be enough to make you want to start him. I don't even think he'd be really a flex, but that could change. But I do think that he steps in and takes Alec Pierce's job right away.
Yeah, you're on the right track, both of you guys. Like, I actually don't dislike his landing spot, Jason. I think that it's a great spot for him to grow and develop. And if he gets
I agree with that.
His diabetes,
yeah, I don't agree. I agree with that. It's just for the first year or two.
Yeah, I think
that's what I'm saying.
I think if you're drafting him with the hopes of like getting immediate production, you're thinking in the wrong vein. I think that your hope for him this year. I guess
that's a better way of putting it. Mm-hmm.
Your hope for him this year is if you draft him, he gets you 8 points a game, or like averages to 8 points a game. That would be my hope. If he performs more than that, I'm ecstatic because the next year he's going to pop. But
yeah,
I do think that AR is going to truly rip the ball downfield. And I think that Pierce was just running wind sprints and is not a good wide receiver. And I think Mitchell is. Like, I think that Mitchell is very talented. And you see it on the reps where he is feeling himself and like how smart that dude is and like how he sets up defenders. They need to get him right. And like if they can get him right, he is going to be a true difference maker and you're going to get a steal. And like I'm in. I'm a little worried the cost is going to creep higher and I'm going to have to be out because like just cost-wise I'm not going to view it the same way. But like yeah, I think that mid-second round, maybe like 204-ish, 203-ish. Like I'm very comfortable at that spot taking Mitchell because I think he's a high ceiling dart throw at that stage.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Shane, you got one more before we wrap up?
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna go with the spicy one because the other ones were kind of meh. Kamani Vidal, baby, pound the drum. Listen, you have Mr. Broken himself, J.K. Dobbins, and then you have Gus the Bus Edwards, which, just let me tell you, he's going to load that thing up and just drive on out of there because he's not going to be the guy this year. Kamani Vidal is the guy. Pound the drum, Chargers. Listen, they were in love with this dude in the draft process. They talked about how much they liked him after the draft, and I know that that's normal for teams to do, but like, if you turn on his tape, and I watched him play K-State, and K-State wasn't bad on defense by any means.
No.
He fucking torched them. Just absolutely torched them. And like he has not necessarily like the best gas in the world. Like he's not going to outrun everybody. He's not that guy. He is a bowling ball that makes people miss, gets the shit in front of him, and makes the smart play. And I think that is going to be Harbaugh's dude. And like I think that he is a true Harbaugh running back. He reminds me so much of Blake Corum based off of like what I've watched of him.
Yeah.
And like what Blake Corum did when he was at Michigan 2 years ago, like pre-injury Blake Corum. Like the dude has the burst, the dude sees the field correctly, he makes the right cut, he hits the hole with speed and like not shy about making contact. And like, dude, I'm all in. I have a full-on love affair with Kamani Vidal. Please do not tell my wife.
Oh man, yeah. Like there is another player that I have a love affair with. I guess we can touch on him. Give me guys your just a few seconds your points on it, and that's Ladd McConkey. I know he went to the Chargers as well. Listen, QJ, he's got to prove something. There's the receiving core there it's not prolific, right? They've got Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey they drafted. QJ still there. Did they get another guy? I think did they sign another guy? I don't think
DJ
so.
Chark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, DJ Chark. Yeah, he was just a recent signing as well. I think DJ is gonna step in and have some value, right? But the way Ladd McConkey runs his routes, man, like I have a love affair with Ladd. I think I don't know how much production he's gonna give you in fantasy this year, right off the get, but I like Ladd. I really do.
I'm on board, Matt. I really am. I hope he stays healthy. That's my biggest concern with Ladd. And
right, yeah.
That's my only hesitancy with him because his routes are crisp. He gets open, he catches the football and then he's a run after the catch monster. So yeah, I'm all on board. It's just I worry that he is not going to be able to play a full season of NFL football where those dudes hit bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah, he's gonna get the volume. He's gonna get the production. It scares me that Herbert is probably going to be less relied on than he was in the past, but that's yet to be seen. But I think if he isn't fragile, he is going to put up the numbers.
I love it. And maybe we can touch on some more of these guys at a later date, but that's going to wrap up tonight's episode, guys. Remember, go check us out on all our socials. You guys heard at the beginning of the episode. Check out the YouTube stream. We're going to add some more stuff. We're still firing some stuff off, but we're making progress. That's the key. We're progressing forward. We're going to keep doing our thing. Y'all keep doing yours. With that being said, boys, y'all know what to do.
Hey, thanks for coming and checking us out. We do have we'll have more articles and stuff posted and our full rankings posted sometime this summer. We'll let you guys know on the Twitter machine when those things are live.
Futures are starting to get cooked up with us, y'all. Stay tuned.
We love y'all to the moon and back. Till next episode. Bye-bye.